Hey, everybody. Welcome back to week 2 on season 3 of So You're Ready to Date. And today we have a really fun topic, or a really interesting topic. And so I'm going to put a disclaimer out there right now that although all of our episodes are our opinion and we are giving some advice, and we are not giving it from any sense of you have to take it and take all of our advice at your own risk. Today, we're going to just talk about our experience as two girls living in the Midwest in the United States, and kind of what it looks like from a what's in it for me perspective, who pays for the date, and what expectations we have experienced on either side from how that has worked, because we had some really interesting conversations as we were talking about what this episode would kind of be about. And it's not a matter of advice, but just a matter of what is the cultural norm. And I don't think that it is fair for us to address cultural norms in other areas of the country or other areas of the world that we've never lived or experienced. So we just wanted to share what our cultural experience has been living in the Midwest and being single women dating.
Because that's not a loaded question or topic either. So we're getting all nice and edgy in season 3. This was a topic that I had brought up with Angie, because I don't know if I'm on TikTok, for better or for worse, but I kept seeing a lot of guys posting videos about buffer dates, where they were like supposed to be like 30 minutes or less. It was only supposed to be coffee. It was supposed to be something that legitimately probably could be a phone call to get to know people, because there was this expectation of what's in it for me. And that was something that really, I think, intrigued the both of us, is like dating with this idea of it's a transaction. I put this amount of work, effort, money in, I get this back. And really stepping back and being like, is that how you want your dating life to be? How can we kind of discuss, broaden, or get into this topic of dating, I guess maybe with a purpose, but without this idea that there has to be some sort of spoken or unspoken exchange between two people because they've decided they wanted to meet.
That, or also dating can be expensive, right?
Right.
I mean, it's easy to drop $100 when you go out for a night. Now, here in the Midwest, where we're at, in this smaller town, smaller area, I can't even actually imagine what a date might be in some of the larger or more expensive areas. So, just talking about kind of what you can drop on a night on the town. And so, if you're going out on a first date with somebody and you're not even sure that you're going to click or hit it off because all you've done is communicate via a online application, I could totally see how that's costly. Can everybody afford that? I mean, I know that I wouldn't be able to afford to do that multiple times a week. Yet at the same time, if I were single and in that situation and not in a stable long-term relationship at this point, that might be something that I would consider doing, is going out a couple times a week with some different people to try and find that relationship if I were ready to date. So I think this idea of buffer dates is very intriguing, but it also caused us to talk about kind of our experience and who pays and what that expectation could be.
It's the stigma that a coffee date isn't a date. It's a date. If two people are meeting and they're sharing some sort of activity, it's a date. So if you are dating multiple people throughout the week and your budget doesn't allow you for restaurants or bars or whatever it is, but there is something about in-person chemistry that texting and video calls and all of that stuff just can't quite mimic. It can't quite give you that same sense of seeing somebody face to face, feeling their energy, being in their presence, and seeing what they're really about. So, yeah, it's a coffee date. Let it be a chance to get to know somebody. And what I love about coffee dates is that they're easy to escape. They're easy to be like, we're 15 minutes in, I'm carrying this conversation. Dude doesn't have anything to say, or he is just really not my type, whatever the reason is. It's really easy to see, oh, look, my coffee's done. I have another appointment. I'm going to have to scoot, as opposed to if you're sitting at a restaurant. So not impossible, obviously, but it's a lot harder to ditch a date that just isn't working. So letting it be that first introduction, if you like them enough, let it be something more. I don't ever assume that a man is going to pay for me. Not that I've necessarily been burned in the past, but I think it's that like fiercely hyper independent part of me of like, no, I can take care of myself. I wanted to go on this date because I was interested in getting to know you. They offer to pay, by all means, I'll let them pay. I'm usually of the mindset of if I suggested the date, I'm going to assume I'm paying. That's usually been my rule of thumb. Doesn't always pan out, but I'm always prepared to pay. But I will pay for both of us if I'm the one who suggested something, if I'm the one who has asked you out.
Yes, I agree. And I think when I was dating, when I was dating and was doing that, I think I always expected that too, that if I asked, if I initiated, then I would be the one paying. And if they initiated, I was not opposed to going Dutch. I was always prepared for that. And there were times when when that would be okay. But I never had that expectation of going Dutch if I asked. Now, I would always let the guy pick up the bill and pick up the tab if he wanted to, but I was always there. I always offered. And that was my experience. And I don't know if that's Midwest culture, if that's just you and I, because that's the way that we are, or if that's the way that it is. But I could totally see how, from a male perspective, being a female, trying to put myself in a set of shoes that are way too big for me or don't fit me right, it's a lot harder to walk in somebody else's shoes when it comes to that. But I can totally see how there is an idea of, if I'm dropping that kind of money on a date, what's in it for me? However, guys, that's not really why you're going on a date, and that's not really a fair assessment. You're going on a date to get to know somebody. So if you're not prepared to drop that kind of money and walk away with nothing, realizing that that didn't work out because that's a risk that you're taking, then I would definitely encourage buffer dates, coffee dates, finding a date that isn't as costly. We have a great list of fun first date activities that are probably a lot less expensive than dinner and a movie.
And I think a lot of things that were coming up in regards to like buffer dates and what's in it for me, I would, from a men, women, whoever it is who's asking, if you don't like the person, don't go out with them. I think that's part of the thing. I'm like, are you actually dating people you like and you want to spend money on? Or are you just dating because you have to date, you have to go out? So I think a big question is asking, do you like the people you're going out with? If you don't like them, then don't go out with them. It feels like really simple to see, but that was a lot of the feeling I was getting from some of these videos where it's like, you don't have to go out with somebody just because they looked physically like your type. Maybe you have like a quick conversation in a bar, you have a quick conversation, whatever. If you're not feeling something, if you don't feel like you like them, why are you going out with them? I think it makes it easier to want to spend money on a date when you have the potential of like, the text conversation has been really fun. I'm kind of excited to get to know this person. I kind of want to see what our chemistry is like in person. So stop dating people that you don't like just to like rack up your roster of people you have dating and people you have on the sidelines, but maybe be more discerning about who you're saying yes or no to, who you want to take out. Maybe that alleviates a little bit of pressure on the pocketbook or paying for dates or anything like that. I know we had discussed earlier, do we ask the question? And none of us have ever really come out and say, hey, I know we're going to go do this thing. Are you paying or am I? That's a very clear way to be just like, I want to make sure you know that I expect you to pay. Or if you have said, yes, I'm paying, then when I show up and you decide you don't want to pay, all right, that says something different. So we've never done it. I don't know if I ever will, to be quite honest.
I could see myself asking something like, let's say we were going to plan to go to a concert for a first date. I'd be like, okay, do you want me to pay you for the tickets, or or how, like, are you going to pay me back? Or if somebody said, hey, you grab the tickets and I wasn't planning on paying for that date, I would be like, yeah, I can grab the tickets. Are you going to pay me back? Like, how is that going to work? Bringing that up. But that is something that I think is fair, especially if you're planning a date. Let's say I have a son who is currently dating. So I'm going to talk about his experience a little bit, or I'm going to use him as an example, not necessarily talk about his experience because this isn't a real life experience, but he's young, just kind of getting started out. And if he were to, he sometimes has some extra money in his pocket because he's young and he has a job and he doesn't have a lot of expenses, right? So he is dating a single mother at this point in life. And if he were to ask her out, there are certain things that I am positive that he could afford to go do that she could not afford to go do. And so if I were in that situation, if that were me, or thinking back to when I was a single mother dating, I think those are questions that I would ask is, okay, simply stating that's something that I cannot afford to go do. I would love to go out with you, but right now my budget does not include this type of expense. And putting that out there and saying, okay, do we want to change the date and still go out? Is somebody else going to pay for it? What is my expectation of financial contribution? And I think that's a totally fair statement, assessment, and conversation to have for either party in that situation.
Right. And it's the same like for, I was talking about men before about them dating. It goes the same for women. I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of women out there who will by all means go out to dinner with a guy that they have no interest in whatsoever because they want to go out to dinner, or they want to go to this fancy bar, or they want to do something like that. Yes, there are people of both sexes, any gender, who is going to use somebody else for whatever they can get from them. But I'm like, is that really? There's this part of me, I'm just like, it's the price you pay for dating. Does it suck sometimes? Absolutely. Are you going to always be able to tell that somebody is just going out with you for a free whatever it is? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that's part of the risk that you assume when you ask somebody out, when you say yes to a date, when you've been on the dating apps, is that, yeah, there might be some financial expenditure and it may not end the way you do. We are people, as people, we aren't like, okay, we're putting money in, I expect X, Y, and Z to come out. That's not how this whole dating process works. And I think that expectation of what am I going to do on this date, regardless if you're a man or a woman, I think you need to be very clear with yourself. What is that line that you will or won't cross? Am I okay with hugging him after the date? Are we okay with kissing? Are we okay with a little bit more or nothing at all? That's always an option as well. So being very clear about what your expectations are. And I have communicated that to dates before, being like, I'm happy to go out with you, but I don't do this on a first date. I don't do this on a first date. And, you can take it or leave it. That's right. Up to you.
I think it's important too for us to have enough respect for ourselves when we're dating. If we're in a situation where we're prepared to date, that self-respect to know what we will and won't do and what is and isn't okay. And that's different for everybody. I'm not here to tell anybody what their boundaries should or shouldn't be, but being able to stand firm in those boundaries when you go on that first date, regardless of whether or not somebody is picking up a tab at an expensive restaurant or an expensive bar. I mean, we're sugarcoating what this is, but I think we can all read between the lines on some of the stuff that we're talking about. And I know that sometimes there is an expectation from both parties that if somebody is dropping those large amounts of money on a date, that there is going to be a certain ending, like Lisa said. And if we know ahead of time that there isn't, standing firm and not letting anybody make you feel differently about that.
Yes. And that could be hard. Mostly because especially when you're in the moment and you've said, hey, yeah, it's not that I don't mind kissing you in the car. It's not that I don't mind holding your hand. It's just I'm not crossing this particular boundary. And for safety reasons, this has always been first and foremost in what we talk about, doing whatever feels safe for you. So if you feel safer sitting in the booth at the restaurant where, like there's a bartender and a manager and a server nearby, so you can say, this has been fun. I think I'm just going to go home. I don't feel like a connection, or I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z, keeping yourself in that safe place. Or have that conversation before the date. There's nothing wrong with just being clear, saying, hey, I'm excited to go do this, just so you know. I don't kiss on a first date. I don't hold hands on a first date. I won't have sex with you on a first date. Any of a million different places in between the spectrum there. But like Angie said, being firm and confident in knowing what is right for you, and how they react, again, is not about you. It's about them and what they were expecting. And maybe they didn't communicate that expectation, and it's not on you that they're feeling a way about this.
And guys and girls, let's be honest. What is your point in dating? If you're listening to this, I would assume, because we are talking about building relationships and finding those partners, kind of our intent. So I guess I'm assuming that that's what you want. Maybe I'm wrong in that assumption, and I'm not trying to tell you that you shouldn't listen if I am incorrect in that. But if you are that person that is looking for that long-term relationship and that partner that's right for you and that partner that meets that list, how are you showing up? Are you really going on this date just to see if you can get a free meal? Or are you going on this date to talk to somebody and to meet somebody that could be that potential partner for you? And show up as the person that you want to find, show up as the person that you want to be in the relationship, and show up as the partner that you want to have. And let's be honest about the people that we're dating and the things that we're doing, and let's do it for the right reasons.
Yes. I think the last two first dates I've gone on have gone so well because I'm very clear about not only what I do and don't want, but I'm very clear about like fun questions to ask. What do I really want to know about this person? Being interested in who they are. Yes, I need to be interesting as well, because who wants to talk to somebody who doesn't have something to contribute to the conversation? But how can I be more? We talked last week about receiving. We're talking a little bit about giving this week. How can I give more attention, give more just like boost to this person I'm having drinks with or dinner with, so that they get excited? There is nothing more fun than being on a date with somebody and you hit that subject that they just can't shut up about, that they just like light up about, and will just barrel on and start talking. And you can pepper in questions here and there, but that's where you get to see people. That's where you get to experience, hey, this might be something, because I love their passion about history, or their passion about cars or crafts or painting or whatever it is. But being interested in getting to know this person across from you, regardless of whether it ends up being like a romantic love match, or maybe you just develop a cool friendship with somebody new.
Watching the light in somebody's eyes when they get excited about something, especially when it's somebody that you care about. So even if it's a first date, something like that, you're looking for that person that you can care about. Does seeing that spark in somebody else's eye make you happy? Find those conversations that they are interested in and get interested in them, because that's one of the best feelings. And when you can really support something that they get passionate and interested about, that is a surefire way to get to know somebody right off the bat, because you always have a conversation topic at that point in time rather than focusing on yourself.
So this is slightly off topic, but saying that really sparked something. And like, this is why we talk about creating a life that you love outside of who you're dating, who you're romantically involved with, so that when you come to these dates, when you come to meet new people, you have a life that's full of cool things to talk about. May not be cool to them, but it's cool to you. So that's what makes you interesting too, is that you cultivated and created interests and experiences and things that you enjoy talking about. And that makes you an interesting person on a date as well.
I think it's important to come to a relationship as a whole person, as a person who has interests and has a quote unquote a life, right? We all have a life, but coming to a relationship or coming to a date and coming to that potential, because then you know who you are. And not to say interests don't change, because my interests change every 2 years constantly. And even if there's a constant there, they still change every couple of years. And I try something new because one of my interests is trying new things. But coming to that with that part of your personality and that spark in your personality really allows you to know if you're connecting with someone. Whereas if all you do is go to work, then are you really letting somebody get to know you? Probably not, because you don't even really know yourself.
Yeah, the only down I have done, like, didn't realize I was doing such a bang up job of creating such an awesome life until this last week or so, where I've tried to organize dates with people. I'm like, I can't do that night. I have this, this, and this. I can't do this. Between us trying to coordinate their busy schedule and my busy schedule, I'm like, I was talking to a friend and I'm like, I didn't think I was that busy until I'm trying to find like 2 hours to have drinks with this person. Like, well, it's looking at like 10:30 a.m. We're gonna start doing Saturday morning. So, but I think there's also that space of, yes, my life is busy now, but I didn't have to make time for people. I didn't have to make time for a potential relationship. Now I'm kind of thinking that maybe I will, not that I'm dropping anything, but it's about how to then to start seamlessly weaving as best you can this new person into your life. And yes, it's been a struggle for one of the dates and I to make time, but we've also had this conversation where he's like, yes, I'm busy. I know that you're busy, but when it's important to me, I will find and make the time. And that's all I needed to hear, because that's really something that I had been looking for in a relationship. I understand busy. I understand having hobbies and things and jobs, but I just wanted somebody to make it a priority to want to see me. And so taking that into consideration too, do you want to keep seeing them? Is it going to be a good thing to bring them into your life? Or is this maybe not the one for you?
Right. For sure. So with that, we kind of went from buffer dates to who pays for a date to being honest about your intentions for a date to here's how you show up for a date and being interesting so you can keep this conversation going and make sure that you're dating people that you actually like. I think that's come full circle. I like it.
We had a lot of stuff in this one. So hopefully you have to go back and listen again, grab your notebook, write some things down.
Because that's not, I mean, let's be honest, that's not really where I thought this conversation was going to go, but I think we wrapped it up real nice. Put a nice pretty bow on it for you guys.
This is what happens sometimes when we decide, hey, let's just press play and see what happens. You get a fabulous episode with like the gamut of things to think about.
Yes. So again, whole season full of all kinds of fun stuff. Like, share, drop us a comment, send us an email with any of your questions or any topics that you would like for us to address or talk about on the podcast. We would love to hear from you and give you the content that you're looking for. You can reach us at soyou'rereadytodate@gmail.com. And we will be back next week with a whole new topic.
Thanks for listening.